I think I just seen Liz.
Right.
So,
Yes,
Wherever they want, off of their property, you mean?
yeah, they have no concept of this.
all right, it is 7 o'clock. We will call to order the Whitley County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for April 22nd of 2025. First item on the agenda will be roll call, please. Brent?
Absolutely. Jack Green? Here. Kelly Sheets?
Here.
Danny Wilkinson?
Here.
Joe Wolf? Here. And Doug Wright?
Yep. Next is the adoption of the previous month's minutes. We have them here in front of you. If you've had a chance to read them, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting.
I move we approve the March 25th, 2025.
I'd second them.
Okay, Kelly moved to adopt them. Jack seconded. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It passes unanimously. Okay. Next is the oath to witnesses. If you think that you're going to speak for any reason tonight, if you are a presenter or if you have questions, you're going to speak for or against a variance or special exception, please stand and raise your right hand, and Liz, our legal counsel, will swear you in. For any reason, if you think you might speak.
Do you swear or affirm that any statements you make before the board tonight will be the truth? If so, state I do.
I do.
You be seated.
Okay. I don't think we have any old business, do we, Nathan?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will go ahead and start our new business. We have the agendas before you. We are going to make a change. We are going to move item 6 up to item number 1 tonight. And deal with it first. So, the first thing on the agenda will be special exception. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Kelly. And we'll give you some idea how the meeting is run. We will read your petition, and then we'll ask the representative or owner, whichever, to come forward, state your name and address at the podium, and tell us what you want to do with your petition. And then we will, after they are done with their presentation, we will open a public hearing for either comments for or against that petition or questions for the petition. So, and then it will be, once we close the public hearing, it will come back to the board, and the board will discuss it and make their decision. So, all right. First thing tonight is 25W Special Exception 6. Brian and Amber Waybright-Fawcett is currently zoned AG. The petitioner, owner of the subject property, is requesting a special exception approval for a secondary dwelling unit on the property located at 5818 North, 650 West, in Section 9 of Etna Troy Township. The property is currently improved with a dwelling and outbuildings. Staff, please, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So going to the slides for this, and now I know it's a long meeting, so I'll try and go through these fairly quickly for everyone. This is at 5818 North, 650 West in Etna Troy. What we're here for is a special exception request for a secondary dwelling unit. The petitioner is proposing to construct a new modular home to the east of the existing home that's on the property. I believe it's a manufactured home that's had some additions done to it. That existing home would be used by the petitioner's parents. Long-term, it would be removed, leaving just the new dwelling in place. Going to the reference material here, highlighted there in blue, is the petitioner's property. This is the submitted site plan that was in your printed packet. Highlighted in red, it was a little hard to see as submitted, but highlighted in red is the location of the new dwelling, meets the setbacks. They have worked out details with the health department regarding septic, it's my understanding. So going forward, this has a lot of room to deal with parking and all of the other factors we look at for secondary dwelling units. So my suggested conditions to attach to this are the 3 that we typically attach with any secondary dwelling unit: that it's granted as presented, that the health department recommendations be complied with, and then that it would not be used for an income producing unit. Any questions for me?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, staff. Would the petitioner or representative of please come to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us about your petition.
My name's Amber Fawcett, and I live at 5818 North, 650 West in Larwell. We are requesting, as stated, to put a second dwelling on our property, move my parents into our current home. We'll build a new home in the back of the property, and when the need is no longer there for my parents, then we'll remove the current home and keep our new home.
Amber, will you cut a new driveway in back to your house, or will you use the existing driveway and kind of go back behind?
We are planning to cut a new driveway, as long as the highway department is on board with that. We haven't asked them yet. We wanted to make sure we could get the approval first, but yes, that's the plan.
So
The plan is it'll run just on the south side of where the garden's at, the little garden's at. It'll just run straight back to the garage.
and you won't be hitting your septic or anything?
No.
Going through on that south side?
No.
So, okay. Have you applied for a driveway permit yet?
Not yet. We wanted to make sure we got the approval before we went any farther with anything else.
Thank you.
I just wasn't sure if you were going to use that existing driveway and kind of go around the house, or do a new one in.
We have a gas tank and with the pool, and we kind of thought if we can just put a new driveway in and avoid all of the other obstacles, then we would go that route.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you very much. You may have a seat. Okay, we will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for or against this petition or has questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion from the board unless there's any more discussion on it.
I move we approve 25 WSC 6 special exception for Brian and Amber Waybright-Fawcett for their request as stated, with the suggested conditions 1 through 3 in the staff report listed.
Second. Kelly has made a motion to approve with conditions. Danny has seconded it. So if there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? So vote passes unanimously. Thank you very much. If you would like to, you guys may leave now, or you can stay and watch the rest of the meeting. So
Talk to me tomorrow.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item of business is 25W Variance 8, Diane Johnson, variance of minimum lot dimensions, 791 East Spear Road. The current zoning is LR, Lake Residential. The petitioner, owner of the subject property, is requesting a development standards variance for a modification of lot dimensions for the property located at 787 and 791 East Spear Road in Section 3 of Thorn Creek Township. The property is comprised of lots 5 and 6 of the Robert Spears Second Addition to Crooked Lake, recorded in 1926. While platted as separate lots, they are owned in common and are combined as a single tax parcel. Staff, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, going to these, as you said, that we are dealing with lots 5 and 6 of Spears Second Edition, which was recorded in 1926. One home is on each of the platted lots of record. They do enjoy various legal non-conforming setbacks, which are shown both on the screen in that table as well as in your packet. The homes were built at various times. The current owner acquired them and has combined them as one tax parcel. But again, they are two separate platted lots still. They have never been formally replatted into one property. What is being proposed is to revise the lot lines to permit a room addition to the eastern dwelling of the two. Because it is a shifting of a lot line that does not create a new buildable lot, it does not trigger the need for platting. It can all be done by survey. However, while it does not trigger the need for subdivision, it does trigger the need for compliance for zoning. Anytime you change something, of course, zoning can come into play. So that is why we are here tonight. By shifting the lot line, the eastern lot winds up becoming somewhat larger, but at the expense of the western lot, which becomes somewhat smaller. The side setbacks, which are the only setbacks that are in question, actually wind up being more compliant for the one and no change for the other. So side setbacks are not an issue with this. What we are looking at are what is highlighted there in bold and underlined. The lot area for lot 5, the lot width for lot 5, and the lot frontage for lot 5. Again, lot 6 being the eastern one is getting bigger. It's still not fully compliant, but it's more compliant. As you recall, as you can see there, the minimum lot area for a new lot is 10,000 square feet in LR. However, the code also does state that when you have, say, a two-family dwelling or apartments, it does also give the option of 5,000 square feet per dwelling. So there's kind of a dual standard there for various reasons. So it gives you a sense as to what the absolute minimum might be for lot area per dwelling unit. Lot width, the existing lots are already under the minimum of 70 feet as platted, and this is just making them that much taller, and again, the lot frontage. However, it still remains 2 building sites. The homes are still remaining there. They're not planning on demolishing them or doing anything else other than, again, adding a room addition to the eastern dwelling related to, well, I'll let the petitioner's representative talk more about the why that's being requested. So going to the reference components of this, highlighted in blue, this aerial view does have all the different lots turned on as well, so it's a little bit more busy than some, but highlighted in blue is the property in question, which is this lot and this lot. And then the proposed lot surveys to shift, you can see that the lot line would be shifted from where it is currently, here and here, westward, reducing the width of the western lot and increasing the width and area of the eastern lot. Also to note, this is not a straight line back to the lake, and the primary reason for that is to allow for this stairway to continue without being split by the new lot line. Also helps to retain as much area on the western lot as possible. Going to the review criteria, generally because this is an existing case and it's just a shift of lot line, staff doesn't feel that there would be a great injury to public health, safety, welfare. While there could be some injury if everyone was to do it, it does seem like this is a fairly minimal change that doesn't impact safety. You can still go around. Also wouldn't expect that the use and value of the area to be significantly and adversely affected because this is a lot change. The only visual difference is the room addition. This isn't allowing another lot to be created or a larger home or anything else of that sort. So the outward appearance wouldn't change drastically. Strict application. Again, I really let you make this determination. It does seem like there may be some practical difficulty related to the fact that this is a platted lot from 1926, which is already deficient. However, because it already is deficient, perhaps it's not the best thing to grant variances. So you really should weigh out the benefits of allowing for some variation versus just trying to stick to the code as written. So as you normally do. But any questions for me?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, staff. Okay, would the petitioner or representative for the petitioner please come to the podium, state your name and address, and what it is they want to do.
Yep. My name is Ryan Pepler with Walker Associates Land Surveying, 112 West Van Buren Street. The owner of the property, she currently is a caregiver for her husband, and in order to get everything on one level on the eastmost lot, lot 6, she's wanting to add on about a 5-foot addition to make some rooms bigger on that one level, which required the need for that property line to be moved. So in order to meet the 5-foot side yard setback between the two, she wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately due to his health, she wasn't able to make it. So she does send her apologies. So that is what caused the need for the property line to be moved. The new property line is roughly centered between the two existing homes as they exist today. With that room addition, it would be 5 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other.
Now, lot number 5, isn't that occupied by a family member also?
It's her. She owns both lots.
She owns both lots?
I don't know who owns or who lives in the other house currently. No, she does own both lots, though.
Okay. Any questions of the petitioner or representative? Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
At this time, we will open the floor to any comments for or against this petition or questions of the representative of the petitioner. Are there any? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion.
I move we approve 25W variance 8.
I would second that.
We have a motion by Doug, seconded by Jack, to approve 25W variance 8. All those in favor? signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. So, Ryan, I imagine you have something else, so.
The same track meet apparently, so thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to call Diane.
I'm on the way.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is 25W Variance 9, the Development Standards Variance with Aaron, Allen, and I believe it's Kanoshia, Schwartz, 7780 West, 1000 South. Current zoning is intensive use. AG is the remainder of the parcel. The petitioner of the subject property are requesting a development standard variance for an encroachment into a required side setback at 7780 West, 1000 South, for placement of a storage building. The property is located on the north side of 1000 South, about 400 feet west of State Road 105 in Section 28 of Cleveland Township. Staff, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, going to the screen here. This is zone ion intensive use, which is related to the zoning that was approved in 2023 for the petitioner's slaughterhouse. Overall zoning area is 2.5 acres, give or take. The overall parcel of which this is part of is 33.1 acres. When this was zoned for the slaughterhouse use, they had the intention of continuing their farm use as well, but in order to, I have to assume, to allow for some expansion possibilities, they did oversize the zoning area. So it did actually include some of their existing agricultural uses as well as, I believe, the house that's on the property. From I mentioned it in the written staff report, the state law does protect agricultural uses if they're in continuous operation, even when you do have zoning changes. So that is not a zoning violation in itself. However, you still have to respect the standards that are in place for whatever zoning district you're at. So what is being proposed is a 24 by 24 foot storage building, which would be for the agricultural use, to be located 10 feet from the western property line. Why we're here is that the IN district has a minimum side setback of 50 feet plus a 10-foot buffer where you're adjacent to an agricultural district, yielding a 60-foot minimum side setback. So the variance then is requested to be 50 feet to drop it down to 10 feet, which is what the AG district does require as a minimum for accessory structures. So going to the views, this is the overall area, highlighted there in blue is the 33-acre parcel. Closer view, the green areas are that zoned AG and AGP agricultural, and then in the center is, in gray, is the ion intensive use. And then you'll see here the proposed location of the barn being right here. I did not put the contours on these slides because they kind of get pretty busy, but there is about a 2.5–3 foot drop from this side of the barn on out, which is one of the reasons that the petitioner has relayed to staff as to why they're placing it closer to the property line than closer to the barn, the existing barn. But they can, of course, give you far more details than I can on exactly what their proposal is. Going to the review criteria, it doesn't seem like the proposed structure, because it is agricultural, if we're in an agricultural area, it's a continuation of the existing agricultural use. Doesn't seem like there would be any injury to any of those. On the same Note use and value, because it is an agricultural area, continuation, and so on, all of which shouldn't affect in substantial manner use and value. Strict application. This is where there may be some room for discussion. Because this was so recently rezoned, and because the petitioner was the one who rezoned it, there may be some discussion about it being self-imposed. However, there are some, as I mentioned, topography issues that do lie with the land, and even in the case of, if it was still AG, those may still come into play. So there's a couple different angles to this in terms of whether the code actually presents a true practical difficulty and whether that is self-imposed or not. So again, I won't belabor this too much, but I think that's where a lot of the discussion that you may have may circle around. So any questions for me?
Nathan, I don't know if this is a question for you or the petitioner, but since this is I assume this building is for personal ag use, and it's going to be right next to a facility that is, the slaughtering facility is state inspected. Is there any guidelines from the state or concerns that personal use facility will be right in proximity to an inspected facility?
I do not know that for sure. However, speaking a bit more about what is already there, this building, they're all personal use. I think they're all personal use already, and at least this one's already closer than the proposed one.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
So if there is, that is definitely something for them to consider, but based on what's already there, I don't believe it is.
That's fine. I just wouldn't want them to get in trouble, to be out of compliance with what they're doing. So,
of course, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, petitioner or a representative of, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us what you want to do.
Alan Schwartz, 7780 West, 1000 South, South Whitley, Indiana. And I'm not sure, maybe I didn't make it clear enough, but on that building there, what I was wanting to do in that, I was wanting to put my backup generator in there to keep it out of the weather. That way, if power or something goes down, everything's inside, and put all the, like my circuit breaker boxes and stuff in there for all that.
that makes sense.
Keep that all out of the weather. That's what my plan was to do it, yes. That building there will be used for the shop.
That helps. Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
Very straightforward.
Okay. Go ahead. You may have a seat. So, do we have anybody here to speak for or against, or that has questions about this petition? If so, please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we will bring it back to the board for discussion.
I move we approve 25W Variance 9 for Aaron Allen and Kanoshia Schwartz for the development standards variance for encroachment to the required setback for the placement of a storage building.
I'll second it.
We have a motion. We have a second. Maurice has made the motion. Jack has seconded to grant 25W Variance 9. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? The vote is unanimous. So, and is approved. So, you may go ahead and stay for the rest of the meeting, or you may go ahead and go. All right. Our next piece of business is 25W Variance 10, RaceTrac LLC, a variance of maximum sign area. The location is the northwest corner of US 30 and 300 East. It is currently zoned general commercial. The petitioner is requesting a development standard variance to allow the installation of a large identification pole sign as part of a proposed gas station facility. The sign would be located on the property on the northwest corner of US 30 and 300 East in Section 18 of Union Township. No address has yet been assigned. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going to the slides on the screen. As you said, this is located at the northwest corner of US 30 and 300 East. The Plan Commission members have already seen this. A couple months ago, they came through with a primary plat to split this off of the parent tract. And there has actually already been a development plan approved as well for the overall gas station site. However, this did come forward as they were discussing the signage that the proposed that the desired signage would exceed the minimum of the zoning code, or maximum of the zoning code, excuse me. So what is proposed is a identification / gas price sign near the southeast corner of the site. I'll show you the site plan in a second. Of note, just to make sure it's clear, this does have electronic components in that it is a digital price sign. However, historically, those are, while they are electronic, they are not classified as, historically not been classified as an EMC, an electronic message center, because the prices are basically static lettering. They change, hopefully they don't change very often, but they change far less rapidly than what we see as an electronic message center, which may be several times per minute. Gas price signs or time and temperature signs, for example, are treated more static. And we have a few examples of those that have been looked at throughout the county. That said, then, we're not looking at EMC as we have with a couple recent sign cases. We're just solely looking at the sign area. And what is proposed is just under 600 square feet total, little under 300 square feet per side. The code allows for 300 square feet total, all sides together, based upon the width of the proposed building. They've maxed out at that 300 square feet, yielding then the requested variance of the difference, 299. Maximum height is 30 feet. That is what's proposed. That's not being varied. And number, setback, and so on are all proposed to meet code. So we're just looking at the area in question. So highlighted in blue is the subject site. The 5 acres that are in question are actually down here. You have Lincoln Point over here. The Church of Latter-day Saints is here. Pages Crossing is across the way, Railcraft, and so on. View from Google Street View from last fall, just of reference. You may remember that there has been a long-standing billboard at this corner, has been for Ball Furniture. I can't recall what it is now. It may still be Ball Furniture. But as I mentioned in here, there is already that is already approximately 500 square feet right there. It's only 20 feet tall as opposed to the maximum 30 feet. Also referenced in that criteria is the idea that we allow for billboards, not identification signage, but billboards to be up to 672 square feet. However, in exchange for that larger size, we do have a restriction on number per distance, so a separation minimum, as opposed to identification sign, which is just allowed 1 per property. So you have already in the code some varying standards that come into play for various reasons. Here is the site plan. Letter N down in the corner is the location of the proposed gas price sign, and that is approximately where the existing billboard is. Somewhat coincidental, somewhat strategic, because that is a physical location. And then this is the submitted sign plan for the site that is in question. And again, when you do the numbers, we take a overall rectangle, and that is just under 600 square feet for both sides put together. Going to the review criteria, I mentioned the injury to public safety in particular, and how billboards versus identification signage can come into play. The idea of potentially having glare and so on if it's bright lights, which aren't really necessarily related to area, but could be a function thereof. Use and value, again, there are not many properties that would be sensitive to an overly large sign in direct eye shot. You do have Lincoln Point that is nearby. You do have a home along 300, but virtually everything else is either commercial in use or even industrial in use. And you have US 30 right here as well. Strict application of the terms of the ordinance. Because you have US 30, it does feel like there is a practical difficulty related to that. Our US 30 is our primary arterial, and because of the volume of traffic, speed of traffic, the time that it takes to see the sign, interpret the sign, and so on, perhaps a larger message area is warranted. And again, that does relate back to why billboards are allowed. One of the reasons they are allowed larger signage. However, whether this is self-imposed, whether this is the minimum variance necessary to achieve that, I do kind of question whether there might be an opportunity to still get a similar effect, maybe still exceed the code maximum, still require variance, but not be basically twice as big as what our code requires. And as I mentioned, there is an existing gas station price sign very similar to this already in existence in Kirsten, which is about 250 square feet per side, which makes it under our code about 500 square feet total. It is, however, 50 feet tall as opposed to 30. So again, trade-offs. But I just have to kind of question whether we're looking at the minimum variance requested or whether there are, again, practical difficulties that truly warrant this big of a deviation from what the code requires.
For reference, is that the speedway sign?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my summary. Any questions for me?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, staff. Okay, petitioner or representative of, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and what it is you are trying to do.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hoffman. I'm an attorney with Beers Malers, Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's 110 West Berry Street, Suite 1100. I represent RaceTrac, which has filed the development standards variance application before you this evening to permit the proposed pole sign. As mentioned by Nathan, this sign is compliant with ordinance height. However, we are here tonight for the size of the sign. The sign is approximately 300 square pardon me, I've got a throat issue this evening, is approximately 300 square feet in area on each face, resulting in almost 600 square feet of total area. As you know, the subject racetrack development, which includes the fueling station and convenience store, is to be situated on an approximate 6-acre site. This is located alongside US 30 at the intersection of 300 East. The proposed signage plans for the development include only one freestanding sign. The remainder of the signage would be located on the building and on the canopy. Aside from fuel pricing adjustments, the sign display will remain essentially static. This contrasts electronic message center signage, which can sometimes present concerns with distraction and intrusion. This RaceTrac sign is intended to display very simple information at a distance appropriate for its location along a heavily trafficked roadway with a relatively high rate of traffic speed. As Nathan mentioned, the proposed sign is to be located very near the location of the current 500 square foot billboard that is situated on the site adjacent to the highway. This billboard will be removed from the site as the lease has been vacated. The location on the site is over 1/8 of a mile away from the nearest residential. Further, as Nathan mentioned, the Speedway sign, which is 500 square feet in total area, which greatly exceeds the height of the proposed sign, is a nearby sign. I believe it's approximately 15 miles away, that would be considered as a comparable signage. This nearly 6-acre commercially zoned site that's located along the US 30 corridor is surrounded by a majority of commercial and industrial uses, warrants signage appropriate for its use, and signage that will help its travelers, including a substantial amount of truck traffic, make appropriately timed decisions for use of the site. Further, this signage is intended to be complementary to the RaceTrac development, as in similar form to other RaceTrac developments. With your approval, the proposed sign would be installed in late summer or early fall of 2026, August or September is anticipated, as part of the overall site construction, which is intended to commence in October of this year. This would provide for an operational fueling station and convenience store around October of next year. Thank you for your consideration of the request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there a particular reason why this size? Is there a study that shows that when people are driving on 30 that size will warrant more attention than another?
Yes, so the sign contractor and the project engineer have both looked at US 30 traffic, the rate of the traffic that's traveling, including truck traffic, which is a large consideration for this fueling station. They've looked at the height of the sign, and they've looked at the size of the sign, the area, and they've determined that the size at 30 feet with 300 square feet per face is an appropriate size of sign in order to, as Nathan touched on, get the attention of those operators on US 30, give them time to make a determination as to whether they will enter that site, will not enter the site, and then to slow down appropriately and get off of the road. So yes, a short answer to the question is yes, there has been determination made by both the sign contractor and the project engineer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions of the petitioner? Seeing none, you may have a seat, and we'll open up the public hearing, open up the floor to anybody for or against this petition or has questions about this petition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and a vote. So, board, any other discussion on it?
I move we approve petition 25 W Variance 10 filed by RaceTrac LLC.
Second.
We have a motion made by Danny, seconded by Doug to approve 25 W Variance 10. So, all those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, Motion passes unanimously. So, thank you, sir. You may stay or you may go, whichever you wish. So, thank you.
You dismissed him.
What? For a few minutes, we will take a short pause until our member gets back and that.
So if you're doing that, I'm
let's go ahead and continue our meeting. So the next item is 25W Variance 11, and forgive me if I mess this up, Matthew Street, is that right?
Start with an A, but an E.
Okay, start with an E, okay. A variance for front setback. Property is at 4928 West, 350 North. It is currently zoned AG, agriculture. Petitioner owner of the subject property is requesting a development standard variance for an encroachment into the required front setback at 4928 West, 350 North to construct a storage building. The property is located on the north side of 350 North, about a half-mile west of Lincoln Way in section 22 of Troy Township. So, staff, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is located on 350 North, which is a dead-end road. Overall parcel acreage is 13.25 acres. Was recently split from the parent tract to the east just a few months ago. What is being proposed is to construct a 40 by 64 foot storage building, approximately 25 feet from the southern property line. This is a flag lot, as you'll see in your packet and then on the screen here in a second. When we have a flag lot, we measure the front setback from the point at which the lot becomes compliant with our 225-foot lot width minimum. And then we measure the minimum 40 feet away from that. So basically where it balloons out and then 40 feet back. Being that they are proposing 25 feet, it results in a requested variance of 15 feet from that 40. So highlighted in blue is the subject property. You can see that there is an area up here of roughly scrub land, and you can even see on the adjacent properties to the west there, the dark colors that you guys know represent more wet soils and so on. So that is an area of lowland. The topography starts to slope up towards the road here. And as you can see in this closer view with the topography turned on, there is a lot of terrain that goes up. Basically staying out of the wet areas yields this area as buildable. Excuse me, not this area because it's beyond the setback line, but basically this area that's buildable. Petitioner is looking at putting this structure roughly here as shown in the proposed site plan. Now I didn't overlay this because this is not, while it is dimensioned, it is not to an absolute scale, so I didn't want to misrepresent the placement. But again, it is approximately here in terms of the placement. There is, having been out to the site, there is a existing, you can see from left to right, trail that runs through the middle of the property, and the north wall of the proposed building would be roughly in line with where that trail is, to give you some sense as to placement on the aerial. Going to the review criteria for this, doesn't seem, in staff's opinion, that there would be likely any injury to public health, safety, morals. As you know, we oftentimes look at septic systems when we're out in larger lots in the county. This has plenty of room still for a septic system. This variance doesn't impact the adequacy of that. Safety, there's still a lot of room around. Doesn't seem like the proposal being a storage building would impact morals. However, I do, again, as I typically do, say that general welfare, if you don't find specific practical difficulties, you may wind up degrading the effectiveness of the zoning code. So that is something to keep in mind. You should have a letter from the neighbor, who I believe is not present tonight. They submitted a comment letter to us. The neighbor immediately to the south of the property, of the subject property, so this one, submitted some concern and photos regarding the potential impact of this, even being 15 feet closer, the impact on the usability of their swimming pool, concerns over privacy issues and so on. 15 feet to them was definitely a concern enough to make comment. Whether it affects the value of the property in a substantial and adverse manner seems perhaps less certain whether it would greatly affect that, because again, the 15 feet, given the placement behind everything, it may be less perceptible, but use definitely could be impacted based upon the neighbor's consideration. However, I do understand the petitioner has some ideas on how to maybe mitigate that as well. That may be explored. Going to the third criteria about practical difficulties. As I said, you do have a lot of slope across this property, but it is relatively uniform. And so while there is some potential for some placement issues, a compliant location isn't much different from the requested location. So it feels like there could be a compliant site that could be identified and avoid the variance. Now, again, the petitioner can give us all more details about exactly why they're looking at this and why 15 feet does matter. But again, just looking at the site specifically, it feels like it is relatively homogeneous in terms of slope. But out of 13 acres, you are reduced down to only a handful because of that large wetland that is on the north side, and the fact that this is a flag lot and that flagpole is not buildable because of setbacks. So you have some difficulties, but whether they wind up being significant enough to warrant the minimum variance necessary in this case is something for further discussion. So any questions for me at this point?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, staff. Okay, petitioner or representative of, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us what it is you want to do.
Good evening. I am Nathan Wilson with Exterior Service, representing Matt Sterk. As Nathan said, we are basically looking to build a 40 by 64 storage facility for, and then also a recreational use property moving forward. The idea for bringing the barn a little closer to the south property line there is to keep it in a more buildable area, as we discussed there. I believe the contours map might be slightly skewed, but we're showing a little over 3 feet of fall through that area. If those are foot increments,
they're 2 foot contours.
2 foot. Okay, good. So that is pretty correct then. So if we slide back to the photo of the proposed building location, the building will actually slide a little bit further over to the east in this. So the mentioned pool location, we're actually moving a little further away from that. The drive would line up with the singular garage door on the south side of the building. Most of the coming and going of the parcel of the barn would be on the north side. Okay, so we'll have a single garage door on the south side, 2 on the north side with a larger stone area for turning around, access in and out of the building. The south garage door is predominantly just a pull-through. So any recreational activity coming and going from the barn facility would all happen on the north. Again, at this time, there is no additional development plan for the property. So as it would be known, it's not occupied 24/7. So the thought of buffering that with the gentleman's pool, I don't think it's going to be a big impact to the two. We do have and haven't started to install a construction drive back to this general location for the additional use of, just getting back there, it's kind of sandy. The whole thing runs that way, so we wanted to go ahead and get a construction drive to that area. That being said, there was some concern with the drive location. The stakes he has referenced and submitted in the photos, those were just straight line offset stakes. So we did go ahead and add some additional staking down the property line itself. The offset we installed there was 10 foot to our stakes with an additional 2, so it follows the already approved highway permit for the driveway. So we are the 12 foot off of that flagpole property line there on the west side. Barn itself, just a storage, no heat, no floor, so it's pretty standard at this point for just storage.
Since there are no other structures planned for the facility, and looking at it, and I do know I'm familiar with the area and how it goes, is there a possibility to move it where you could avoid this variance? I mean, we're talking 15 feet.
Yep, so we will be getting into the tree line if we continue to head to the north or even to the east there. We have some pretty substantial trees. I don't know if you can see those very clearly there, but that will impact those. With the placement currently, we're looking at maybe just trimming up one tree versus taking any out. Again, recreational property, we want to do as minimal impact to the surrounding foliage as possible. And I believe there's also a county regulated tile that runs up through there, furthermore indicating how bad the soil might get as we approach further north.
Could you go further? I thought the tile was back a little further.
It is. It's maybe 150 feet, but it really gets going.
On that white drawing, the one you had before, just if you go back to the previous drawing,
Right here.
that's the drain tile's up there. That jagged line going through the middle.
Yeah.
That's the easement for county drain tile going through the property.
We've done some potholing out there, and it gets pretty wet, sandy the further north we go as well. So I mean, that's just. We're trying to keep it up on some decent bearing ground. We certainly don't want to import any more fill than we have to level the site up. A, not only from a cost standpoint, but B, just also impacting the foliage around.
So my concern is, I guess, what assurances do you have between construction traffic and construction of the structure that there will be no disruption to neighboring property owners?
Especially during construction, where it's a pretty quick turnaround. I mean, we're talking maybe 2 weeks from start to finish by the time we would get approvals and permits and everything. At this point, just the construction drive has been installed, but ongoing for the installation portion, it's still pretty chilly. I don't think we're swimming yet, so hopefully we're out of there before that time ever comes.
No, but I think previous personal experience from a prior approval similar to this with just an accessory structure used for recreation was, oh, well, we can't get the trusses on from our property line, so we're going to take our equipment onto somebody else's property to put the trusses on.
Gotcha. No, we have plenty of room to access everything. Again, currently, as it shows there, we are 25 foot proposed location now. So we have full room to work around the building. There is a couple trees there to the east, but with the setting location and how that will take place, we won't even be working off of the east side. Everything would happen there between on the north side of the building moving forward. So there really shouldn't be, other than just putting up the siding and the general framing, anything happening on the north during the construction process.
And no blockage of the road. When you have to put fill in for the driveway, that won't be dumped on. I know it's a dead end street.
Yep.
And not really heavily traveled, but another issue that's come up is inaccessibility for people to get by the road when construction's happening.
No, we've got the construction drive in now ahead of time so that we could aid that if anything did. We've got plenty of room to pull off of the road during construction process.
Now, you say the construction drive.
Yes,
is the permanent drive?
It is permanent, yes.
That's going to be the permanent drive? Because I was by the site today, and that is very close to their property line. I work for the county highway, and if it was me personally, I would not want it there.
Okay.
And I would raise a stake and put a block under it.
Okay.
If it was me.
So we are the 12 foot that was proposed in the permitting process. So we are falling into that criteria that was asked for. Now, the additional moving forward, that was where it looks like some of that property further to the east might have been tillage at one time. So we're trying to lessen that. This was already installed grass lane heading all the way to the back. So I think that might have played into the role of choosing that location to lessen anything further to the east.
Any drainage issues that you'll see with the installation of that driveway so the runoff doesn't go to the neighbors?
No, the only spot that it might sheet drain is right in the corner of the property there. At that point, it'll continue to sheet drain. We're not looking to build that up any more than we have to. Again, 25 foot, so we're not impacting any sheeting there across properties. And I think there might have even been some discussion of some landscape buffering in the future from the Sterks down the driveway edge. So maybe that could be just a friendly neighbor between the two discussion of, hey, if we're already planning on putting some of this in, where's the common ground? What works best for both of us? So. Yeah.
Any other questions of the petitioner or representative of the petitioner? Seeing none, you may have a seat.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against or has questions with this?
I've got a question.
You may come to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Joyce Adair. I'm a co-owner of Buffington Heritage Farm on the south side. You want my home address?
Yes, please.
2828 South State Road 5-57 Purston. I was just wondering, the recreational vehicle, the south face of that building, is that going to be a solid wall with no windows in?
At the current time, we just have proposed one garage door.
Yeah, the garage door.
I
understand that.
No doors, no windows on that south side.
Okay. Okay. And what I'm understanding, you're asking for that 25 feet because the slope of the land, you'd have to do a lot of fill if you didn't have that
There's going to be
easement.
some additional fill. As of right now, we can cut a swale on the south side of the building. On the east side of the driveway to continue that sheet draining away. The further we go, we're just going to impact the tree line there. We're probably going to have to take at least 2 down to continue. If we move the building, the additional 15 feet. Right
I'm
now.
trying to put it between some trees. There's not a lot of trees there. I'm trying
Okay.
to put it right between the 2 trees there. Take
Okay.
down no trees by 10.
Okay. That's the only question I had on it.
When they say recreational,
Yeah, when you say recreational, is that personal recreational or what does that mean? How many people are we talking back in there? Because we're on a dead end road back there, and that's the nice part about being on a dead end road. You don't have people going up and down the road all the time.
You go ahead and have a seat, and we'll let him go ahead and answer your question. Okay? Please state your
My name is
and
Matthew Sterk. I live at 5224 Halleyview Run, Fort Wayne, 46814. We have a house on Loon Lake. We got some boats. I need a place to keep them. The fact that I bought this much land was just it was available, and there wasn't much else available last fall. And I have a couple grandkids. There might be some four-wheeling out there. We might turkey hunt out there. I hunt with Kurt Wolf on land real close to your family, so I know Willoughby County very well. The driveway on my side where I propose you mentioned the driveway, I want to address some issues because the driveway's been approved. I wasn't here to discuss that, but I'm willing to. It was the flattest of the land and the adjacent property to the left of the swimming pool. Their driveway is closer to the property line than mine will be, or the same. So there can be 2 parallel driveways. I had to give up pretty much that first 300 feet deep to put the shed there. If I move, and I want to keep everything in the north, the activities without killing them trees. If I move the building to the right, there's a good chance I'd probably move the pad, the driveway, turnaround and everything to the south side of the building. And that's gonna give them a lot less privacy and a little pool back there if that was their main concern. So I'm sticking with the driveway where the county has approved it to be put in the dimensions that the county approved. And they said there was no need for a culvert. But I would gladly put one in if they said there was one. You say it's on a dead end, and I understand that, but as far as the construction traffic and stuff, yeah, he can get in that first 300 feet and find a place to park will be off the road. It's a pretty narrow road, so I understand that concern. And the dead end turnaround, it looks like the people of the West, I've never met them, so I hate to talk about my relation with them like this. That turnaround just kind of disappears into their property. So I don't know. I've never driven past my lot. I've actually gouged my pickup truck turning around there to avoid going into the end of the driveway. Because I don't know where that county line officially ends and turns around, but it's pretty much abandoned, it looks like. So.
Recreational. Getting back to the recreational. Is this a family recreation or is it a commercial?
No, I've got a side-by-side, 4x, and I've got grandkids. There's some paths right on the property. The people to the right that I bought it from, looks like they've been four-wheeling stuff on it. We're going to rarely be out there, but it's been in storage. But if the grandkids want to go out there and tear around it, it's 4 miles to Loon Lake, so we'll wear them out at the lake and we'll bring them over here. But yeah, no, strictly personal. No intention of even building a house, putting septic in or anything.
Does that answer your question? Okay. To get back on how that road runs, I work for the county highway. That comes back there, straight past that mailbox. That is where it is. Where it goes out to the north, that is his property.
Okay.
Because that used to be, we used to use that. There was another house that set back there. And we used to use that as a turnaround when we plowed snow. And when that sold, we checked our maps and that, and it ends right there.
Oh, okay.
So it's where, so we actually have, and that was today when I was out there, and that, it created quite the mess because his driveway is the only place to turn around there.
I've never went past my property line.
So
I've never met them, so I have no business being their property. The first time I looked at the property, the one county line road map does kind of show it going up and curving and then ending. And from that one map, it looks like that's still a road. Obviously, you're telling me it's not.
Straight back there, just past the mailbox, and there's where it is.
All right.
So. All right. Any other questions? Okay, if there's nothing else, bring it back to the board for discussion.
I do like the idea of future discussion, and I know it's up to you, but it's all about being good neighbors, of some buffering, because and just keeping the lines of communication open with the project and respecting other people's property.
I was only beer in this. I haven't met people I bought from either on the other side. They didn't start closing.
Well, as I know the area, traditionally that was always used for agriculture. The Goldwood Gardens had a organic farm back there, so they have given that up. So as far as I know, that section, because when that sold, it all went to these people and that. And again, I'm not crazy about the driveway location, just being 12 feet off the property line. So when you have the amount of frontage that you have there. And as far as not putting a culvert in there, I am very surprised about that, because normally our minimum culvert diameter is 12 inches, and usually everywhere we make it a thing to put in a culvert, because your driveway is to be 10 inches sloping away from the road going down. And that is what it states on
Water
the driveway
just comes to
permits.
sit there.
So the water
That was
does
my
not
only
stand
question, is it-
on the road.
Yeah.
Jason
Yeah,
driving it
so-
down culvert. You know, I'm at the home was fine. I don't believe it does.
There's a lot of fall to that north, so
Okay.
it's gonna run.
Okay.
But any other discussion, board? If none, we'll entertain a motion. Staff, do you have anything to add?
No, I think they filled in the gaps I had.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we give a formal approval for 25W variance 11 for Matthew Sterk.
Jack has made a motion to approve. Doug, you're seconding it. Okay. Jack's made a motion. Doug has seconded to approve 25W variance 11. Go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye, or I'm sorry, by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Vote is 3-2. Motion carries. So you may stay for the rest of the meeting, or you may go ahead and leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Our last thing on our agenda, as far as variances, is 25W variance 12. Magno LLC, I believe that's how it's pronounced. If not, you can correct me. A variance for minimum lot frontage. Is currently zoned AG agricultural. The petitioner owner of the subject property is requesting a development standard variance for a reduced minimum lot frontage for a proposed parcel split on the subject property located on the west side of 800 East in section 24 of Jefferson Township with an approximate address of 8480 South 800 East. The property is currently unimproved and is used for agriculture. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going to the slides for everyone's benefit. This is approximately 8480. It's not an assigned address. It's just a reference number. South 800 East, so the County Line Road, zoned AG agricultural. Grand total of 92.3 acres, give or take. This had been just over 100 acres up until last year when 10 acres was split off to a different owner, which you'll see in a second, but it snakes around the south side of this property. What is being proposed is to split the 92 acres into two building sites / parcels. Because of the acreage involved, they are over 20 acres each, so platting is not required. As mentioned in there, this could even be split again, and if all the parcels are over 20 acres, still would not require platting even then. So you could potentially have 4 building sites without the need for subdivision platting. Again, as I've mentioned once already tonight, while it may be exempt from subdivision, the zoning code still applies, including the development standards that we have in play. The parcel has 90 feet of road frontage on 800 East currently. So their proposal to split this into two is to have 45 feet of frontage dedicated to each parcel. If this was split again, the petitioner owns additional property over the 700 East, so the other 2 sites they've suggested would go that direction, or they acquire additional lot frontage somehow. So 45, 245s is basically the minimum that they're anticipating there being. The code requires 50 feet of frontage per parcel on a public road. Thus, the variance requested is 5 feet per parcel. Going on to reference materials, so highlighted here in blue is the subject property. The 800 East is here, 700 East is over here, and so you have the frontage here. As I mentioned, the property that is 10 acres that was split recently comes up and over. You can see that a little bit more clearly as I zoom in here. So this is the adjacent parcel, and it is compliant, that 10 acres is compliant with the 50 foot of frontage. So up until only basically a year before last, this had 90 plus 50 foot of frontage, so 140 feet of frontage. But because of this previous split, it was reduced down to the 90 that we're seeing with this parcel. You'll also see that you have a number of home sites that are along 800 East. I referenced that in the staff report because it is important to know how we got to this 90 feet and when. This was not something that was really done by the petitioner. It was done over the number of years since basically the 1970s on up through the 1990s. These homes were split off. And for just further reference, you can see the arrow here from 1951. This home was not part of the parent tract. This home is. The parent tract is approximately this. So all of these homes that you saw over here were added by at least one property owner, if not two, over the, again, basically since the 1970s, which further reduced down this available frontage onto 800 East. When you have only the need for access for getting farm equipment in there for a field, that's one thing, but when you start developing lots or even 40-some acre parcels, you still need to have frontage for the zoning code. Petitioner has submitted this sketch plan. This is not a finalized plan, but the concept is basically to split it north and south roughly. Again, long term, they may have desire to split it east and west as well to create 4 above 20 acre sites, and if so, they would either acquire additional frontage along 800 somehow, or to utilize the parcel that they have going over to 700 East. That's very hypothetical at this point. It's not really what they're proposing with this and the reason for the variance tonight, but it is a common question, and that's why I'm posing it to you. Overlaid, again, for reference more than anything here, you can see how this shapes up and how the sketch plan overlays over the aerial. Going to the review criteria, staff doesn't feel that this would generally affect public health, safety, morals, especially right now. The lot areas used to have 2 very large lots, 2 very large building sites. It's a 5-foot reduction per. As we've discussed before, not only is the lot frontage requirement there to ensure that there is an adequate access route, it's also a mechanism to limit the intensity of development. And so if this was 10 feet wider, we wouldn't be here. You'd have 2 50-foot strips. It's a reduction. It's again, keeping in that spirit of that intensity. However, I do, looking farther beyond the current petitioner, another reason that we have 50 feet specifically required for frontage is the provision that if you have a property that is large enough to be further subdivided, that 50 foot of frontage is equivalent to the right-of-way required for a subdivision street. Going to less than 45 feet means that the developability of this, both parcels, is reduced because no longer do you have that 50 foot of right of way that the subdivision code and plan commission would be requiring. You only have 45 feet. So if we're looking beyond the current owner, the current proposal, that may be something that impacts the general welfare because it means that the developability is reduced, and if it is developed, we're looking at a reduced standard because of this. So it may be something that is definitely desirable to say, no, that is a problem that we want to deal with later, and keep it very straightforward tonight. It may be something that could be dealt with by modifying, if the petitioner is okay with it, modifying the request to be 50 feet and 40 feet, still equivalent, but allowing for that at least one to be compliant for that future thought. So again, really future thinking, not the current proposal, but the much farther on if that ever does happen. That is, again, one reason that we have that 50 foot frontage requirement. Going to the use and value, staff doesn't feel that the proposal really would change the use and value. The proposal as is right now would be to have one shared driveway for both parcels coming through, even though each has its own frontage. It would be one shared driveway, even if it was two. The overall aesthetics of it would be very similar to what we see throughout the area. So it doesn't seem like there would be much impact on use and value. Very large lots, and you don't have very many neighbors in the towards the western portion, just up near the road. And finally, strict application of the ordinance with practical difficulties. You do have practical difficulties coming from, as I said, the lineage of how this frontage come about. That you have lots that were split off over the course of 50 or even 60 years that resulted in what's left. Now the question is there more practical difficulty and is it more warranted to have 245 frontages versus a 50 and 40 or some other combination? And what are the impacts of that? So those are further things to consider. Again, it may be something that you feel is not warranted tonight because it's not part of the request, and that's fine too. Let the future people, if and when that ever comes up, deal with it at that point. But I do want to, again, highlight that as a potential concern or consideration. So I think that covers that summary. I think I went into a little bit more detail about this one than I have some of the others, so my apologies. But any questions for me?
Nathan, help me understand again that why, if they're gonna split, why couldn't they each do a drive on 700? Is it, does the property not come out there to 700?
I think the petitioner can answer that a bit more directly than I can. It does go out to 700. Let me back up to that aerial view. Wider aerial view here. So the petitioner, oops, wrong button. The petitioner owns, which one is it, Brent? This one? Okay. So they do own this one, which does have frontage onto 700. And that would be where they've already said if it is split into 4 pieces, at least 2 of the frontages would come off 400 for the additional 2. But right now they're proposing to utilize 800 and leave that parcel pretty much alone. Why? I can defer to petitioner.
But any deviation in the future, I think we'd help. If that comes down to 4 or whatever, needs to come back.
Right. Any deviation to reduce this, to either to reduce it down below 45 would come back to the board, or they would have to figure out other mechanisms to deal with this. I will say, just for transparency, if there is a modification that increases the compliance, so let's say it's 45 and 48 feet, that would not have to come back to the board. It's only if you reduce it. Even if it's becoming 50 and 40, one is still being reduced, so it would still come back. And that's, again, why I suggest it might be something to discuss tonight, if that is a potential proposal in the future.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions of staff? Thank you very much, Nathan. So would the petitioner or representative for the petitioner please come to the podium, state your name and address and what it is you want to do.
Good evening, Joe Herendeen with Sour Land Surveying, 7203 Ingle Road, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46804. And I think Nathan pretty much covered everything that I would say. That is correct, that they're looking to do 2 home sites currently at this time, with a shared driveway coming off of County Road 800 East. There is the potential to split that up into 2 more home sites. And at that time, I believe that they would be coming off of 700 East at that time for access for those. At least, on paper, so they have the legal access. They'd probably still all use the same driveway, as this is going to be kind of a family compound, if you will. And that's, and then, they were looking at doing this as a major subdivision with an actual platted roadway. But this seemed to be maybe an easier route to take, was to try to get this approved instead of going through a rezoning and a primary plat and a secondary plat. So I'll take any other questions anybody has.
Nathan, if they split it into 4, then does it become a subdivision reason?
No, again, subdivision code, if you're 20 acres or more in size, you are exempt from the platting requirements. Unless you propose something like a public street or something, that's a different scenario. But just simply based on acreage, they would not be obligated to subdivide and get a plat recorded.
Okay, thank you.
And to add to this, I do know prior to the current owners, there were developers looking at this to do a major subdivision. So that kind of fell through. And I think this is probably a more practical use for this piece of real estate, at least probably for the adjacent landowners.
Is there any other questions of the petitioner? I do have one comment, and as I stated before, I do work for the county highway, and I have seen family compounds, and we had one just recently. I think it went through the plan commission on 600 East.
Yeah.
They had to platted a home off from that because of a death in the family, and they did not want the house anymore with the family. So, and they were going to sell it. So, and my thing is the amount of traffic that even a few houses make in that area, because that road gets 5,000 plus cars a day on it. And yes, it is a speed limit of 45 miles an hour, which at right now, sight distance is 500 feet at 55 miles an hour, which would be lower at 45. I can't remember what exactly though. But that does set at the bottom of the hill. But you do have sight distance from there to the north and also to the south that is adequate for 55 miles an hour, which is what most people drive on that road. So,
I drove for 25 years.
Yeah. So, but my biggest concern is I've seen these houses pop up and have a shared driveway, and then we have to go to an agreement, an easement, a covenant, whatever you want to call it, to address having a shared driveway and that. So, but so that's my comment. So
what we approved last month was not a shared driveway, though. Was it? Well,
It was approved at the reduced width.
because it was about the same, was it not?
No, it was
25
It was
feet.
smaller. It was a lot smaller.
25
Okay.
It was 50 total, so
That
you
was it.
split 25 and 25. And
This is 90.
it made a condition that it was only used as a shared drive, and easements were to be drawn up to say that it was a shared drive. Not to have two drives, one on 25 and one on 25, that was a dedicated shared drive that had ownership and ingress egress.
I believe this one is planned to have the drive is going to be on the south on track A completely. It won't be on track B at all.
Landegren.
I think that was because it fell on two different parcels.
So just for reference, I'm bringing up the survey from last month.
Okay.
So.
I'm just trying to determine for our decision process if there's similarities, and then I know did we put a condition in with that one?
One. Yep. Theirs was a total of 50 altogether for both, where this is 90 for two.
Mm-hmm.
We were reducing it by 25 feet, where this we're reducing it by 5.
So here's the case from last month. Flag lot, a total of 20 acres in size, and what they were proposing was to do a roughly, I can't remember, 15 and 5 or 10 and 10 plat, and as Brent's already stated, it was going to be 25 and 25 as opposed to 45 and 45. So.
Thank you. I just needed a point of reference.
Yep. Thank you for the memory.
Right. We'll open the public hearing. Anybody to speak for or against or has questions with this petition? They come to the podium, state your name and address. And now.
Good evening, Sonia Emmerich, 5865 East State Road 14, Columbia City, Indiana. I just have a lot of questions, and I believe, are you the representative or not the owners?
I'm not the owner.
Okay, so I just have several questions for them, and then I do have comments. How would you like me to proceed, Joe?
Go ahead and have your questions addressed.
It's going to be a family compound, I understand, of 4 parcels.
Eventually, possibly 4. And right now, just 2.
Right now, just 2. Okay, and with those size lots and those sizes things, what are they planning on doing with the property? Is it going to be agriculture related, or is it just going to be like grown to?
It'll just be 2 homes and maybe an outbuilding.
Hey, Sonia, can you talk in the microphone?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I'm just asking, like, what are the plans for the property, for 2 or 4, with 2 houses, potentially 4. I'm just wondering what the intent is for the land use that other than the houses, whether it will be farmed, tillable, seeded, grass, mowed, golf course, anything like that.
It'll just be residential parcels.
So 2 40-acre parcels
right now
with houses, and it's bare farmland right now. So we're just going to plant grass, plant nothing.
They'll probably plant grass wherever the areas are reserved.
Okay. Any agriculture or anything? No agriculture going on it.
Not on these parcels. Maybe on the ones to the west that they have title to, but not on this one. I don't believe so.
Okay, so nothing's going to happen on the ground. I mean, there's residential. They're going to plant grass. Help me out.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's all I know this time.
Okay. Are the owners here?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess I can't ask a lot of questions because the owners aren't here and they're just gonna plant grass. So I guess my concerns with it is, if you look at the area in the vicinity of Southwest Jefferson Township, where we've been here a lot before. A lot of it's been before any of us were around, but there's all kinds of concerns out in that section. This is the next mile to the north, but down between 24 and County Road 900 South is where we have several large subdivisions, heavily residential areas. We've made a lot of mistakes in the past as a community, as a county. First and foremost is the Manitou. The driveway back through those houses did not meet code. We cannot get fire trucks down there to those homes. We cannot have accessibility for emergency vehicles. As we continue on up to further additions have done better with code out in open areas where there's not wooded trees and things like that that prevent the roads from being the standard recommended widths. We also have Popcorn Drive that has gone in with multiple houses. Nathan, can you bring up the aerials of these areas? And then we've developed other private roads with large lot homes on them off of 700. So this property did go up for auction, to which Mr. Waterfield purchased it and put it in an LLC, and then I assume sold it to the current owners who put it in an LLC under Magno, and then the other lot off of 700, the other field, 50 acre approximately field off of 700 was sold from Paydirt LLC to Magno LLC. So as the representatives stated, somewhere in there was going to do a large residential development.
It was discussed.
It was discussed.
There were developers looking at that piece to do a large, like we're talking, you could have done 300 lots on that parcel.
Sure. Yeah. And it would have gone to rezone and it could have happened. So it's just, there's a lot of questions about the adjoining map. I was talking about Manitou and Manitou Lakes and Popcorn Drive. So you can see all the houses and how we've been developing this section of Whitley County. And how we've developed our rules and our regulations for a reason, because we deal with this on a regular basis of non-compliant roads in that area of our township and our county. So my concerns are, by permitting another variance, and it doesn't seem like it needs to be a variance if it's staying in a family plat and they're keeping it together. I'm not sure why we need a variance for, instead of doing it correctly, which would be a communal road to standards. It could still be private. They still won't have anybody driving on it but the people they want. And I guess at one time I heard there's a possibility of horse farms and that type of thing. I've also heard that he mentioned the possibility of buying additional land, but with the sell-off that Waterfield's kept, I believe. Again, I think it's another LLC. There's no other access to County Line Road except for the property to the north of the driveways that they could buy and not cross that additional lot. Is that correct, Nathan?
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
With the jagged driveway to get back to the 10 acres, there's no other land they can buy to get to County Line when you mentioned, except for that one property there. And I was just wondering, you checked to see if those people are willing to sell?
I'm not aware of.
Okay. So that really there's no no good options except for one homeowner that could sell to give them more frontage to build bigger driveways. So I'm just asking that you consider Nathan's staff report, that it may be important to protect future development potential by allowing width for construction of a subdivision street. And as you guys noted, when we have done other family compounds, eventually people sell, people die, people divorce, things just don't, you know, people have job transfers, people move. And when they move, you leave us with lots and land that are landlocked. And simply by having him put in the type of road that's required, that they could all access with family, it would just make sense, instead of kicking it down the road, to have another board that would have to tell you, you know, that would have to deal with a situation that's created on this very much landlocked land. And if you decide that you're going to want to do 2 different parcels so that they could potentially sell it off or, you know, add more, and they are willing to put it on their other property for access on 700, I would appreciate if you would write that into the covenants so that if that property does sell, that it will be included in using that additional land for access. At that point, they sounded like they're willing to do that. You mentioned that if the other 2 lots, or went to 4 lots from 2 lots, that they would use the access on 700.
I believe at that point they'd have to really go back to the variance.
And this land was purchased with them knowing what they had. And we've had this several times in planning and everything else about people wanting to split off more than what our county allows. And we've had to, we've turned them down because we have rules and we have regulations that this has gone on and it's not healthy for our community, and it doesn't work. It goes against our stated uses. And if you would just put the road in the way it needs to be, is it a financial situation that they don't want to put the road in, the standard 50-foot road? For
No,
the
it just has to do with the fact they only have 90 foot of frontage and try to split 2 parcels off. So it can go 50, 40.
But then when they go to 4 lots, then you have the need for a wider driveway, right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, so why are they here if they don't need a wider driveway? They won't ever need a wider driveway?
They're here because the code requires 50 feet of frontage for new parcels on a public road, and the proposed split yields 45 and 45 instead of that 50. So that is the nature of the variance. You are hitting on a lot of the topics that I presented to the board as part of my staff report.
Right. And so I'm hoping you guys are feeling those and hearing those. And we're creating yet another unnecessary mess. If they would just put the road in, and 50-foot road in, and figure out how they want to do an easement and parcel it, we wouldn't need a variance. And if you do the variance, I, again, hope you don't kick it down the road to when things go south, and put it in there that the only way that you will allow it to be parceled again into 4 parcels, we got, instead of 2, that they will use access off of 700 East. So, and again, they bought this knowing our rules are set, our rules are here. If they are going to develop it into a family compound, even those come to an end. And easements and right-of-ways are important. So again, I just ask that you consider the statement by staff, and if you do approve it, to please consider putting in the covenant that additional driveways or parcels will come off of their property that they own, or the LLC owns, to the east, or to the west, I'm sorry, on 700 East.
Can we do that legally since it's not part of the request?
I
Parcels aren't.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out which parcel.
They're two separate parcels.
Oh, you want it to come off of this one?
That's what the representative
They're
said.
looking at splitting this into.
Yeah.
What she's saying is if they split it into four,
They have two different.
the additional frontage would be off of 700.
So we'd be putting a condition in for a request that's not even been.
correct.
Yeah.
There are so many resolutions to the problems or potential problems that have been raised, and I agree. And as I said, a lot of what Ms. Emmerich has mentioned is stuff that I have already said it to you. But this is pretty far down the road. What is before you tonight is just simply the lot frontage. And the question about whether a road should go in or not, I would boil that even further down to it's not whether a road should go in, it's whether a provision for a road should go in, say that 50 foot of frontage as opposed to 45 feet. Not necessarily a road at this point, because the proposal is only 2 parcels, not 2 lots, not anything else. The size comes into play with that. Again,
What precedent do we set if we put that? Because I'm going back to last month when we approved, and granted it was smaller, but we didn't put a provision in there, and that could attend. And I mean, I know there's not a road on the other side. I guess I just don't want to set precedent.
What could be possible is where Sonia's going with this is to make sure that it's possible that a 50-foot right-of-way is reached back to there.
Sure.
So where the request is 45 and 45, if you did the request, if you modified that to a 50-foot and a 40, that would allow for there still to be a provision for the possible right-of-way to continue on if a road were needed.
Okay.
And instead of 45, 45, make it 50 and 40. It's still creating the possibility of having the 2 lots with ample frontage, just not splitting it down the middle and eliminating the possibility of having a 50-foot right-of-way.
So instead of splitting it evenly between the parcels, you take the 90-foot frontage with 50 and 45, so only one variance would be needed, correct?
yeah, it depends on how you count the variances, but yeah, one frontage would be compliant and one would not. So as opposed to both frontages not being compliant.
And it all comes down to when it triggers the 4. The 2 isn't an issue. Is that right? But when they go to the 4, that's where if we don't have a 50-foot road, we are.
So even with 4, again, we're playing with hypotheticals that are in the future. 4, though, is somewhat potential more immediately. Even with 4, platting is not necessarily required if they keep it above 20 acres. You could also look at not only the frontage over to the west, you could be potentially acquiring a property to the south, or acquiring a strip to the south or to the north. You do have other avenues that could be possible that might present themselves in tomorrow or 10 years from now, whatever. Locking them into the current situation when that is not proposed tonight, I do not feel comfortable with. But what you are saying is correct. If and when that is presented, it will need to be addressed.
And so can you say that under the current variance, they cannot go to 4 parcels?
I don't think it needs to be stated because it will have to be addressed if and when it goes to 4 parcels. They will have to figure out how to get that frontage for the additional parcels whether by an additional variance or going to the north, south, east, west,
Okay.
or a public street, as we've
If you leave that,
already discussed.
yeah, if you would put that one at 50, if they wanted to split it and didn't have other access, then it could be converted to a major subdivision.
Right.
And not used as a private road constructed to county standards.
And I brought a binder that I've had from years past. Very well could be outdated, but it is the Indiana Citizen Planner Guide, which I believe you guys all have access to and are trained on or supposed to read. I'm not sure. But under Chapter 3, avoiding pitfalls, beware of variances. Beware of backdoor rezoning and variances that can occur when an applicant asks the BZA to allow a use not normally allowed or propose changes to more standards in the districts which could otherwise resolve with a rezoning request. If the BZA follows the required criteria, this should not happen. So there's also in there, which I couldn't find it because I was just flipping through it really fast. I just pulled it out this afternoon and just started looking at it when I was here. But for financial causes, we are also not supposed to give variances just because it saves them money to get a variance, whether it's a setback or anything else, to save them money. That is not supposed to be a legitimate reason to grant variances either. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you could keep that in mind as you go forward, that'd be great. But as far as development, and it's their land, I wish them the best. Looking forward to having great neighbors, but at the same time, that is a very, very dangerous road, and I just hate to see us variance away the future for that to be more useful. Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to speak, please come to the podium. Please, let's not try to go on as long.
Yeah, Chris Kaufman, trying to make it short. I just got a lot of questions about 7585 East 900 South -92, Roanoke, Indiana. You keep showing my house. We have the whole south side of that property. And I got a lot of questions, but I don't know where to go because I've never done this before. But they have the chunk out of there and then around. I don't understand that. But, are they going to have to come back if you approve this? Do they have to come back before they build their houses or anything to get that approved, or how does this work?
Staff?
So short answer, no. Again, you've heard us talking about the over 20 acre rule.
Yeah.
Under the subdivision code, only subdivisions are absolutely required if you have, well, there's some exceptions, but start to be required when you go under 20 acres per parcel.
Yeah.
Since these are proposed to still be over 20, platting is not required, so no subdivision is required. It's basically a survey split that would be done, and then the houses themselves are standard building permits, so there's no development plan or anything else.
Okay, so there's no development plan. They have to come in and get a building permit and all that.
Correct.
And this has nothing to do with any of that.
No.
Right. Because I got cattle that come up, and I don't want some neighbor. You know how it goes. Yeah, it smells, but they know what they're getting into. I wish they were here. I have a lot of questions for them. I wish they were here. But that's what I worry about, affecting what I do, because I'm the 4th generation to live on that place, and it's getting tighter and tighter. What am I supposed to do? I got kids, 5th generation.
Chris, I think one of the best things you can do is try to have a conversation with them and a dialogue. I mean, speaking from someone that has had multiple neighbors over the years between our operations, good and bad. Some have worked and some haven't. It is, I think, and unfortunately in certain parts of this county, where we're at, we see Warsaw and Winona Lake trending our way. Where you're at, you see Fort Wayne trending your way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it goes back to good neighbors, and it does go back to property rights, and fences do make good neighbors sometimes, but
Yeah, if you keep them from cutting it. and coming through.
yeah, I think trying to, and I know you've had your challenges down there. I really do.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, you need to make the effort on your end and the dialogue
But what protects me? You know, is there anything out there to protect me? Right to farm law?
you have
If
the right to
there's
farm. We
issues.
don't have, I know I think Kosciuszko County does, but when someone comes in to build a house and files their building permit, they don't get a form or whatever, that documentation, an agricultural release form that says there are agricultural practices around you and da 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 da. Do we have that here?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
In the AGP maybe to do this something?
I don't
Or they're
remember.
near that. There's,
You see my concern. That's my concern. You know, I can't do anything. Not making any money farming, but what else do I do? I can't buy them out. I mean, this is a lot better than a subdivision. I mean, then I'd have issues with water because I'm at the bottom of the hill. So, which I don't think there will be, but, you know, I don't know what else to do.
I think that's where Kelly said you need to have those discussions with those people.
Yeah, they're not
And
here.
and you also need to educate yourself on.
And Chris, I would be happy to facilitate. Joe, I'm sure that you would agree that the property owner wouldn't have any issue receiving phone calls from properties. I mean, we'll check with him first, but I'm sure he'd be happy if I gave you.
Yeah, because I'd like, you know, at least know his plans or anything.
So I can get that to you.
And you've
then I
got
can
some other
relay-
livestock people down there. I know. I mean, but I know Hartzell's have hogs in those buildings and
Yeah, he's right next to me.
Yeah.
Next place, so.
and some other things. So, you know, I think that's all you can do is try from your end and hope that understanding's there. And like,
Well,
I
it
said,
is with him. He's a good neighbor. I talk to him
Right.
with each other. I know him pretty good now. But yeah, like you say, work with him. But see, you know, I would have liked to meet these people.
Yeah.
But
we don't always get to choose our neighbors,
Yeah, I know.
unfortunately, and we got to make the best of it. I mean, yeah.
that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So, okay.
I just want to say one more thing about meeting the neighbors. It would be great if we could contact them, or if they would contact their neighbor, us as neighbors. But when they're LLCs, even on the tax records, there's no information about how to contact them. Grant's being gracious by offering, but they've never been named at this meeting. We still don't know who they are. You know, they bought 2 large parcels in Whitley County, and I don't think they've met any of us yet. And we can't meet them if we don't know what their name is or how to contact them.
Is there anybody else to speak? Questions? If not, we're going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion. So, board, we've heard quite a lengthy dialogue on this. And that Nathan stated, you know, that a lot of these questions are looking out into the future. And tonight we are here for a right-of-way variance. I would prefer a 45-45 split, splitting it down the middle. So is there any other discussion between the board or questions of anybody?
I would like the board to just consider revising to a 50-40 split, so we just have one variance and we have that option for the future.
For future
road
common
access.
road?
Yes.
Well, you made a statement a little bit ago that you didn't want to start a precedent, but you are if you do that.
Yeah, I know.
And I agree with you. I don't think we want to get into that because then the next thing you know, they're going to, well, you broke it down to 45, now do it for 30 for me. And we've got these rules and regulations for a reason. And they knew what they were getting when they bought it. It hadn't been that long ago they bought the property. So.
So you'd like to keep it 45-45 or?
I think it should be just what it is right now.
If we put a 50-foot one in, does that open up a subdivision going in there versus the 45-45?
That is exactly what has been discussed. Is it would allow for a subdivision street at some point in the future, and Mrs. Emmerich has suggested that would be a good idea, and I think Mr. Wright is suggesting that perhaps would not be such a good idea to allow for that. Although, as it is now, a 50-foot right-of-way.
So that's what we're doing. If we put a 50-foot in, we're allowing us a possibility for a subdivision. Is that correct?
As opposed to the
45-40.
Estimated 45-45.
Does the 45-45 then essentially, looking ahead into the future, if they split it into 4, have them have to look at those drives over on 700 then? I know.
There again.
I know we can't.
There are many options.
Okay.
At that point, they may, because it's in the family, they may reconfigure to be a 50-foot wide strip, and then actually create right-of-way out of that and create a street. They could use the right-of-way or frontages on 700. They could acquire more. There's quite a few different ways to satisfy the code, hypothetically.
So what I'm hearing is if we leave it 50, that opens it up for down the road for a housing addition or a subdivision of some sort. So our question is, do we want to go kick the can down the road and possibly have a subdivision? Or do we want to approve 45-40 or 50-40? Doug doesn't like that idea, but
Nathan, doesn't the 50 allow them to do the 4, which is their?
That's been closed.
Yeah, it's been closed. Public hearing's been closed, so it's been brought back to the board. So I will say this, and this goes to how many years I've worked at the highway and that, and the number of roads, as it was said before, the private roads and that, and we ran into this not long ago with the storms that went through. A gentleman called about us cleaning up a tree. His insurance suggested that we should clean up the tree, but we do not recognize that road because it's not built to county specifications and that. And it was put in, and it went from 2 houses to 5, I believe. And that, and they are not all family. So they are responsible for their own snow removal, tree removal, and they did chip and seal it a while back, but it isn't a shape that we would not let it be in if it was a county road. So, and there are these scattered all over the county with family compounds, this and that.
So the 45-45 allows for more controlled growth.
I'm sorry?
The 45-45 allows for more controlled growth, and I mean, and
my thought is they bought the property, they come to the county, they say you need 50 foot per property that you want to build on.
Per parcel.
So that means they can build one off of that road.
But if we don't do anything, then that still leaves that area large enough to have a road in for a subdivision, which they could do because they bought the property and that's their right to do it.
But we set a precedent. My point is, we've got the rules in the first place. Then it seems like everything that comes to us, we approve. So what's the point of having the rules in the first place if we don't ever stand up and say, no, that's not what we're supposed to be doing?
I know, and that's why I kept asking about last month, because we essentially did the same. I know it's not the same thing, but I do think
I agree. I understand. And I was a little concerned about that last week or month.
You voted 25-25 last month, so you opened up a precedent there, as far as I was concerned. And you got neighbors last month that had no trespassing signs, so you got squabbles with neighbors. You have squabbles with neighbors on the one last month. But I think we should leave it 45-45, and if the people, if Magno wants to come back before us sometime and make one of them 50 foot and put a subdivision in, they can change that, correct? They can apply to change that?
There's an option.
Either turn it down at 45-45 or approve it at 45-45.
Well, and the other thing is if they come back and have a 50-foot right-of-way through here, that 40 no longer is consequential because they'll have frontage off of their new subdivision streets. So they won't necessarily have to come back to you for a variance or reduction or anything else because they'll be compliant with that construction.
With the 50 foot, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. They'd be putting in a new street at that point.
But if we leave 45-45, they got to come back.
It would have to require planning. So the plan commission would see them.
Mm-hmm. But they would need to do that at county specifications, correct?
Right.
Well, board.
So what, Doug, what's your opinion? We should just deny it? Not allow it?
Right.
Why did you vote last month to go to 25 then?
Well, it was a little bit different. Because we made it a 50 foot.
I don't disagree with you. Deny it, but that's what we're doing. People's have an issue coming in here with small lots and they want us to fix their problem. The problem should have been fixed by not buying it to begin with.
That's my point.
And I know we're not the traffic controllers, but that road we approved last month is not near as busy as.
I don't care about business of the road.
But
just like this gentleman over here, he's got two issues. You either sell his farm and move someplace else or buy it. Buy the neighbors. You can't buy the neighbors because I know probably this is exorbitant prices out here. So.
All right, board, what is your pleasure? We'll entertain a motion for, deny, with conditions. We'll entertain a motion either way.
I move we approve petition 25W variance 12 filed by Magno LLC as presented.
Danny makes a motion to approve it as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it just to get it to a vote.
Doug seconds the motion for 25W variance 12 as presented. So, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the vote is 3-2. The motion passes. All right, moving on. Any other business, Nathan?
I don't think so. Don't have any other reports to speak of, other than thank you for attending the training session at the end of March. I think everybody but Jack was able to attend, so I appreciate that. The next one of those will be coming up in July. The topic, I believe, will be ethics, but that could still change, of course. Otherwise, we've been here. I don't have any other reports.
And I want to thank you because the stuff that you go over is stuff that, you know, some of us don't know. And that there's questions that arise, and we thank you for that. So informing us on that. So okay, if there's no other reports or anything from the board, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good evening.